Two of the country's most famous national parks are right here in Montana, Yellowstone National Park and obviously Glacier National Park. But here's the thing that most travel videos won't tell you. They're completely different experiences. One has erupting geysers, boiling rivers, and the largest concentration of wildlife in the lower 48, while the other has alpine lakes, massive vistas with glaciers, and one of the most beautiful drives on Earth. So if you're trying to decide which park to visit, or you're just curious what makes them different, I'm going to break down the biggest differences between the two, what each park is best for, surprising facts that most visitors do not know, and which park I personally prefer and would recommend depending on your travel style. My name is Dylan Conger. I'm the broker owner of Big Sky Country Real Estate based here in Bozeman, Montana. And I spend a lot of my time outdoors, love going to both these national parks with friends and occasionally clients coming from out of state. So if you're interested in Montana travel, living here, or in-state opportunities just while you're visiting, make sure to like and subscribe. I make these videos all about life here in the Big Sky Country. Before we jump in, I'm curious, if you had to pick right now between Yellowstone and Glacier, which park would you rather go to and why? Drop it in the comments below. I'm super curious to see what people think before doing a deep dive into each of the parks. So naturally, we're going to start with the Yellowstone National Park, partly because Yellowstone National Park is actually the first national park in the country established in 1872. And it is absolutely huge. Covers over 2.2 million acres, spanning parts of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. And it's most well known for its geothermal features, including Old Faithful and numerous colorful hot springs, bubbling mud pots, and huge geysers. It actually just made the news for one of their acidic geysers actually bursting for the first time in years. There are over 10,000 geothermal features in Yellowstone, more than anywhere else on Earth. While Yellowstone is famous for its geothermal activity, Glacier, located in northern Montana, close to the Canadian border, there's actually a little tiny corner over across into Canada called Canada's Glacier. It's known for its dramatic alpine scenery. We're talking jagged mountain peaks, those picturesque turquoise lakes that you sometimes see in photos, and huge valleys carved by ancient glaciers. Tends to be a little bit more timbered, a little more dense, dramatic as far as terrain goes, and it's home to one of the most scenic drives in America, the legendary Going to the Sun Road. If you've never been to either park, the easiest way to explain the difference is Yellowstone kind of feels like you're on another planet. Feels like a dinosaur documentary. Ground is steaming, there's rainbow-colored hot springs, don't go in them, exploding geysers, massive herds of wildlife. It honestly feels a bit prehistoric, like you're stepping back hundreds, thousands, millions of years in time. Whereas Glacier National Park kind of feels like other areas of the Rocky Mountains or even the Alps. It's super dramatic, got crazy peaks, glacier-fed lakes, huge waterfalls, and really like dense forests, whereas Yellowstone's a little more wide open. It kind of looks like you're looking at something out of Switzerland. Personally, I have seen wildlife in both of these parks. However, I tend to see a lot more in Yellowstone. It's arguably the best wildlife park in the United States as far as viewing wild animals goes. You can, on any given trip, see buffalo, wolves, black bear, grizzly bear, elk. It's honestly surreal. Just don't be one of those tourists that says that the park should train their animals better to be seen from the road. Glacier also has wildlife sightings, but they're a little bit less concentrated, partially due to that dense timbered nature. Some animals that you may see around Glacier include elk, again, black and grizzly bear, but also mountain goats and bighorn sheep. That being said, Glacier is more about the landscape itself and outdoor hiking opportunities. In Yellowstone, there are also exceptional hiking opportunities, ways to get outside, but most people, I think, tend to spend a lot more time in their vehicle in Yellowstone than they do in Glacier. At least I did. Watching wildlife from the road. Definitely recommend bringing a spotting scope or a pair of binoculars. Driving around to different geysers, seeing iconic national park landmarks. And it's a bit easier to get around by road in Yellowstone, in my opinion. Multiple different access points as well. Some must-see spots that I'd recommend. Grand Prismatic Spring is definitely a good one to check out if you've never been. Yellowstone Lake and the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. Whereas Glacier National Park, like I said, a little bit more for the outdoorsy adventurist like myself. Much more access to very scenic, beautiful hiking. Also does have scenic drives, can get a little bit more congested on the road, and they now have a permit system most of the open season to drive on the Going to the Sun Road, so definitely plan ahead if that's something that you plan to do. And then gorgeous alpine lakes as well, you can't miss the lakes. Some of my top spots in Glacier, you have to see the Going to the Sun Road, have to do it at least once. Probably drive. I know that some people bike up and down it as well. Lake McDonald, you've almost definitely seen pictures of Lake McDonald. This is the expansive lake, super clear. You see all the colored stones below with the mountain vista rising above. Great spot to take some pictures, sit and hang out, or even swim. If it's the middle of the summer, lake does get cold, obviously. Glacier National Park, keep in mind, water comes from glaciers, but awesome place to sit, have a picnic, do some recreating, or any of the glacier hikes. Another cool spot to check out in Glacier, Triple Divide Peak. This is along the apex of the Continental Divide, and technically two continental divides. Essentially, when you're at the top of the peak, water that hits that section could flow to either the Pacific or the Atlantic or the Arctic, just based on where water flows from each of those different aspects of the peak itself. So I'm sure at this point you're thinking to yourself, Dylan, well, which park is better? And the truth is, there really isn't necessarily a better park. It just depends on what type of experience you're looking for. If you're looking for a more laid back, not as rough on the body, wildlife, scenic experience, maybe try Yellowstone. If you're looking for more of an adventure with the super dramatic mountain scenery, long hikes, alpine lakes, and less time on the road with crowds, maybe try Glacier. Some cool facts about Yellowstone. It's actually home to about half of the geothermal features on Earth, which was an insane statistic that I didn't even realize until I was doing a little bit of extra research for this video. And it's also absolutely huge, like we mentioned at the beginning of this video. Millions of acres, and it's actually bigger than both Rhode Island and Delaware combined, and also sits on a supervolcano. I think most people know about this when they start looking into Yellowstone, so I'm not going to go too far into it. Don't worry, I don't think it will explode, and if it does, it won't matter if you're in the park or further away. Then a couple of facts about Glacier. Back in the day, there were over 150 glaciers in Glacier National Park. Those are starting to shrink and disappear, obviously as a fact of climate change, global warming, general conditions, etc. Today, there are only actually about 25 of these glaciers remaining, so would recommend making it to the park to check those out before it's too late. This park also shares an ecosystem with Canada's Waterton Lakes National Park. I had the pleasure of going there a couple of years ago and doing some hiking up there as well, and visited Canada's glacier. And it's just, I personally don't feel at home quite the same as I am when I'm in a high elevation in the Rockies, and it's just, you can't beat it. Next, we'll talk a little bit about planning your trip to each park. So as I mentioned, I'm based in Bozeman, Montana. We are the biggest city close to Yellowstone National Park and where most people fly into to then visit the park. There are other smaller airports in West Yellowstone and a couple other areas, but most people when they're visiting Yellowstone do stop in Bozeman first. If you're planning a Yellowstone trip, want some additional insight, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. I have friends and recommendations, vendors of people that rent vehicles, camping equipment, tours, whole 9 yards that I'd be happy to pass on to you. And then getting to Glacier, most people when visiting Glacier fly into the Kalispell airport. Some will visit Missoula first instead. There's tons to do in that area as well. Would recommend, don't expect this trip, obviously, when you're flying in to be something that you'll Uber or taxi for. You definitely want to rent a vehicle, even if you're doing one of those guided tour services. Montana's a large state by area, and you need to have a plan for transportation. In my experience in booking stays for each trip, whether in the park itself or in the surrounding area, I have found that it's a bit easier to get accommodations or especially camping permits in Yellowstone than it is in Glacier. That could change, kind of just subject to the year, but either way, I would plan way ahead. 6 months absolute minimum, and look at recreation.gov is one that I use often. Look at it daily, especially if there are any of these more nuanced areas that you're trying to get to, because they do fill up very quickly. Whether you go to Yellowstone or Glacier, please don't forget to be kind to everybody you see working in these parks. They put a ton of effort into keeping these native wild spaces for all of us to enjoy. And regardless of which you pick, you can't go wrong. You'll have a great time. And once you get back from your trip, don't forget to drop me a comment about which was your favorite, especially if you go to both, or your favorite feature of whichever you do end up deciding to go to. They are located about 8 hours apart, so it's a little bit tricky to hit both of them on one trip, but I do know people who have done so. Just take some extra planning and logistics. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next videos.